This has serious implications going forward for the Dallas Cowboys, and when it rains, it pours. And that sentiment has come true this season. Let's break it down and much more on this episode of Cowboys Digest. Welcome in, everybody, to Cowboys Digest. I'm your host, Peter Vryonis, and today we're going to be breaking down some good news, some bad news, and some potentially bad news for the Dallas Cowboys. But before we get into the video, I want to let you know that a large percentage of you who are watching these videos are not subbed to the channel, so go ahead and do that. It's your number one source for Cowboys news, and I'll keep you up to date on everything that you need to know. But let's not waste any time. Let's get straight into the bad news. And sorry to be the bearer of it. Trevon Diggs to undergo knee surgery, which is something that we expected. We heard Stephen Jones talk on 105.3 The Fan about the injury. A little bit of a back and forth between the star cornerback and the executive vice president of the Dallas Cowboys. But all in all, he's potentially going to be out for 8 months, is Trevon Diggs. And this is yet another setback for him. The Cowboys secondary is great when they're all healthy. But the problem is that they're never all healthy. And we waited about 10 weeks to get Deron Bland back this season. We waited for Trevon Diggs to get back on the field once Deron Bland was back in there, and it's just been a carousel of names going in and out of there. We've had Amani Oruwariye get in there, had Andrew Booth, who we haven't really seen anything from since, and I mean, it's just been a revolving door, that secondary spot and those cornerback positions. Hasn't really been any consistency there, and now with Trevon Diggs out, probably for the early portion of next season, it's going to be tough. Do the Cowboys shift their focus now at the draft? Do they try to sign somebody in free agency? I truly don't know what the approach is going to be here, but I wanted to get to some good news. And the performance that we saw on Sunday afternoon from one Osa Odighizuwa. Look at these numbers, folks. So NFL leaders in QB hits over the last 7 weeks: TJ Watt, Dalvin Tomlinson, Micah Parsons, Myles Garrett, and at the top of the list, Osa Odighizuwa with 16 quarterback hits over the last 7 weeks. And we go even further than that. He was the highest rated Dallas Cowboy by Pro Football Focus on Sunday against the Carolina Panthers. 94.6 pass rush grade, 93 overall grade. He was all over the field, making tackles, wreaking havoc on Bryce Young all day long. It was fantastic to see. And Osa Odighizuwa has had an amazing season. Dude is set up to get paid in the offseason. That's from RJ Ochoa. And unfortunately for the Dallas Cowboys, he's going to be a free agent by season's end. So it makes you wonder, what is next for the Dallas Cowboys and one of their weaker positions? I mean, Osa has really solidified that role in the past few weeks, and he's been a valuable contributor over the course of his entire Dallas Cowboys tenure. But he's hitting the free agent market, and he is the best defensive tackle on said market. So where do the Dallas Cowboys go from there? And if you take a look at his season, I mean, he's been one of the best players at that position in the National Football League this year. He's got 40 tackles, 22 solo tackles, 18 assisted, 1 forced fumble, and 4 sacks. Since 2021, Osa has had a career total of 165 tackles, 13 sacks, and 2 forced fumbles. So he's having a career year this year. He is going to shatter a lot of those numbers that he set in previous seasons, and there's still 3 games to go. I mean, the Cowboys are not going to make the playoffs unless an absolute miracle ends up happening here. I believe they have to win out, and the Washington Commanders have to lose out. So that is an unlikely scenario in itself. The NFC is loaded with a lot of talent this season, a lot of teams with great records. I mean, for God's sake, you have the 11-2 Minnesota Vikings as the number 1 wildcard team. It's absolutely crazy. So maybe the Cowboys would have had a chance if they were playing in the NFC South or if they were playing in the NFC West, but even that's starting to look bleak. They're in the NFC East, which has 2 teams that are better than them, that have been better than them all season long, and Osa Odighizuwa has really been a nice surprise for the Dallas Cowboys this season. I'm just going to put it that way. I mean, having a great year, and he's had a terrific season. It's too bad that someone else is going to pay him next season because Dallas won't. And that's the unfortunate reality. You see, Jerry Jones is really hesitant to spend big money on defensive tackles, especially with the contract of Micah Parsons looming and kind of being a dark cloud over this organization. When are they going to extend him? Because it's clear that they need to extend him. This defense has done a complete 180 since he has gotten back in the lineup. So you're going to have no Trevon Diggs, at least for the beginning portion of training camp and maybe until the start of the season. And you might not have Osa Odighizuwa either, who is playing on a pretty nice deal right now. A $3 million contract for this season. He's probably going to be in line to get, I'd say, $10 to $12 million. And I don't know if the Cowboys are going to go to those lengths to keep him around. He's a crucial element to this team. They need him. He's been great in run stopping. He's been great in rushing the passer. And his talent has really shined in the last few weeks since Micah Parsons has come back from injury. So it's no coincidence that those two guys work really well in tandem together. And DeMarvion Overshown as well is a massive part of this team too, with the way that he can rush the passer and move sideline to sideline. I've loved the way that Eric Kendricks has played. Maris Leofau has played really well in that linebacker position, and the Cowboys have options. Now, one thing that I want to make clear going into next season, Mike Zimmer has to be the defensive coordinator of this team. He unequivocally has to be the defensive coordinator of this team. It takes a while to learn new schemes. It really does. And for the beginning portion of the season, the Cowboys were undermanned and they were overmatched by a lot of their opponents. But Mike Zimmer has finally had a full complement of pieces with him, minus DeMarcus Lawrence and now DeMarvion Overshown. But he is making the most of the talent that he has available to him on the field. Deron Bland has been back. Trevon Diggs was back for a couple of weeks there. So he was using those guys and getting the most out of them that he possibly could. But it's tough, man. It is tough when you deal with all those injuries. Just look at the Detroit Lions, who got absolutely walloped. Don't look at the score. It was a lot closer than it should have been. 48-42. They combined for 90 points, the Buffalo Bills and the Detroit Lions. But the Lions were getting marched on. Why? Because they're dealing with a lot of injuries. They just lost one of their interior linemen for the rest of the season. Aiden Hutchinson probably out for the remainder of the playoffs as well. And they're dealing with a lot back there. So Glenn Johnson, or Glenn, their defensive coordinator there, his name is skipping me here, but he's been doing a great job with what he has. But now it's really starting to catch up to them, and they're getting a lot of points scored on them. And it's not always the fault of the defensive coordinator. So I don't think I want to see Mike McCarthy back next year. Even though he's had 3 great regular seasons and he's managed to steer the ship in the right direction in a sense this year. But just too many questionable decisions by Mike McCarthy. But I think Mike Zimmer is the guy that needs to take over this defense going forward. Let me know in the comments down below. Do you guys want to see Mike Zimmer back next season? Let me know, and I'll see you all tomorrow.